I'll just explain a little bit. We started out with a scenario about the divide between design and policy, and how policymakers can understand design and designers can understand policymakers. So, excuse me. So we actually started out by having a conversation, or a series of conversations, because the group that we were fortunate of having people who were either designers, people who work with designers, and people in policy. And we spent quite a bit of time just discussing what the various issues are that we face either as designers or as policymakers. And again, we were kind of coming up with the usual problem of not actually talking around the issue without actually defining what it is that we actually do. And we had some quite lofty words for the problems that we actually face. So then we spent a little bit of time actually just doing a series of small visualizations where we started to individually basically draw out what we think the design process is and what it actually looks like. Some weird and wonderful drawings, but again, trying to tell different stories about how we perceive what the design process is. And I think after that exercise, then we realised, well, designers and policymakers actually do the same thing. And they go through very similar processes, but they probably just call it something slightly different. And I suppose we found that quite interesting. And we were thinking about how do we get over the "I'm not a designer" statement that every policymaker or everybody else who isn't a designer seems to say. So we came up with a proposal for a visualization rather than an actual visualization, which was going to be video based. And we sort of said to kind of overcome the kind of problems of perception about what do designers do and what do policymakers do, we were going to do a series of, can I call them video mashups? What the title was actually Designer Policymaker Mystery Mashup, where we would get policymakers to talk about what they do and designers to talk about what they do, and splice the videos and merge them together to basically show the policymakers and the designers that they actually do the same thing and talk about the same thing. And then we started to get very excited. And then we started to come up with different ideas of TV programs based around getting designers and policymakers to swap places. So we were looking at shows like Faking It and Wife Swap, and how we could do sort of similar things for designers and policymakers. And again, it was showing the real value of overcoming the perception that actually policymakers do very similar things and designers actually do very similar things as policymakers. And then we started to move on to the idea of game and play and how we might use game and play, and the idea of having what's the game called again?
Like the opposite of operation.
Yeah, something like a game of operation where you have to actually build your ideal policymaker.